Good morning. I'm Susan Cosno. This is the office hour for Oregon State University PDC Pro Winter 2024. This is Zoom number 5, and the next lesson due is lesson 5, which is the water survey, watershed map, and site water flow on March 18th, so next Monday. Okay, let's let some folks in. Oh, so Pat, Lewis, and Lucia. Recording. Good morning. Hi, Louis.
Hello, how you doing?
Pretty good. How about you?
Doing good, doing good. Got the little one here.
Aw.
I'm just, so how you holding out with yours?
Good. She's at school today, so
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. All right.
We got fish yesterday. She got her first aquarium set up, so
Oh,
that was
wow.
really exciting.
Yeah. Well, I'm a little scared to do that.
Yeah. How old is yours?
I got a 9, a 5, and a 1-year-old.
Right. Okay.
And I know it's not a problem with the 9-year-old, but with the 1-year-old,
Yeah.
Reaching, it's a little tricky.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I do plan on getting like an aquaponics system.
Nice.
And so that's when they'll do the fish.
Mm-hmm.
The salesman was like, "Well, I want to see you operate a hydroponic system first. See if you can make the plants happy before I sell you an aquaponic system." I was just like, "Oh, that's kind of strange of you." And he was just like, "You're gonna write a review, and it's gonna be a bad review."
Interesting.
And he was like, I just don't want any bad reviews. And I was like, okay. So he sold me the greenhouse. He sold me the hydroponic system. And, hopefully the greenhouse will be up this week. They're erecting the last of the panels.
Nice.
So yeah. So that's the latest thing on my end.
That's exciting. Cool. Can I mute you? Do you mind if I mute?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
I can hear the video in the back. Okay. Good morning, Lucia and Pat.
Hello there.
Hi.
How are you guys doing?
Lucia, which is,
I'm gonna take one, Lucia.
Okay, hey, from the greenhouse, we had this big wind here, like whatever, 2 weeks ago or last Saturday, the Saturday last week. My greenhouse blew. It just lifted and just carried away all the fence and away. None of the plants were broken. Nothing in the greenhouse just blew away. So.
Oh, we lost her. Okay. Pat, you're up next. Okay, I just asked you to unmute. I think you have to unmute. Yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
Hey, and we internet here, so I hope it's gonna work, but it just kicked me out again. So we'll see how it goes.
It might help if you turn your video off.
Really? Oh, my video. Okay, let me know.
Yeah, sometimes that helps. Oh, did we just lose?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Pat, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm still here, but
okay.
Well, I'm in Kauai, and I've connected with some of the other people here that are owners of condos, and they are really active in horticulture. And so I think that in the future I could have some impact, which I wanted to have on native plantings. And then I thought I'd develop some labels so that when people come here, they would know what the native plants are called. And then I'm getting a French drain. That's why I'm here. Like water. So they're going to put a French drain in this week or next week, which is way needed. And that'll take away any worry of flooding. But what's nice about it is someone come up and they said, no, would you ever want to put vegetables in when we tear out all these plants? And I went, funny you should say something. So I think they'll put in a bit of an organic garden program starting right in front of where I am. So that'll be good. It'll be interesting. And I think they don't have much of a background, so it'll be fun to see what kind of on.
Yeah.
Anyway,
How long are you there for?
I'm only here for just 2 weeks.
Wow. Okay. You fill your time. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I just saw Catherine pop in, so I'm going to check in. Hi, Catherine. How are you doing?
Doing well, working on my plan as we speak, so
Multitasking.
trying to get caught up. I'm so far
Okay.
behind.
Where are you at right now? Are you lesson 3?
I think I'm actually just finishing lesson 2, which is a little embarrassing.
Okay, that's fine. Some haven't started, so you're doing just fine. Okay. You do have the break coming up, it's technically March 22nd to April 1st too, so that gives a little bit of time to catch up.
Perfect.
Cool. Okay. Well, I've just got a couple of like little things. I'm just going to go over the water survey, the lesson 5 coming up, and then I can take questions. Does that sound right? Okay, and I just want to see. I think we lost both Louis and Lucia. Hopefully they'll come back.
I'm still here.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Good. Okay, and we got Louis back too. Great. Okay. Cool. Yay. I'm having trouble managing windows this morning. I'm trying to get them all sorted out. Sometimes this works really easily and sometimes it does what it's doing today. Okay. Move that over. I'm gonna do a little screen share. Share sound. Okay. So this is by most instructors' accounts or all, kind of collectively, this seems to be the longest assignment and the one that students struggle with the most, which can mean putting it off the longest. So if that's you, don't do it. Just jump into it. But there are a few things that I think maybe make it easier, make it more straightforward, take some of the guesswork out of it. So you've got the water survey, which is 3 points. That's pretty straightforward. What's your source of drinking water? That's if you're in a suburban or urban situation, that's going to be your municipality. It might be a regional. If you have both a well and a municipal source, or if if you've got a couple, then you can list those. If you've got a well, it's helpful to know like when the last time the water was tested, what the depth was, when it was built. If all of those things are helpful to have in this. This is where you would keep that information. And then the wastewater, most wastewater treatment facilities or processes are pretty standardized. So you're probably going to find something where there's if it's a regional or municipal intake, they have some sort of like a flocculation, or they're settling solids out. They do a biological treatment, and then they add whatever chlorine and other junk that they add to it, and then the actual wastewater is discharged, and then if you can note where that's going to or how it's discharged. There's very few places left that are actually like discharging into the ocean or something, but you should be able to find that like through your county or your city data. If you're in another country, you'd probably be going to whatever regional authority governs your wastewater management. That's going to include like septic. If there's a septic field, like a leach field, you can note that. If there's ever been any problems, or when the last time it was when it was built, when the last time it was cleaned, if that's a necessity. So similar for septic tanks, when the last time that was cleaned out, how often that management cycle is. All of those pieces are appropriate to fit here. And then you can include some photos if that's like an image. A lot of counties, municipalities will have like a flow chart of how the wastewater treatment process goes. So you can include that here. And then of course, it's your sources, some image titles, and you're good. Here, you're going to just be detailing what you can find about your rainfall, which you're going to be going into much more detail later in this assignment. So this will be summarizing like your annual rainfall, if there's ever been like a major precipitation events, so like annual 24 or 48-hour rainfall, like such as we just had in LA a few weeks ago. Was that 14 inches in 2 days, I think. Yeah, so things like that that have had a major impact, and then what some of those impacts were, whether it was flooding. Some people detail how it's like flooding, or it's fire followed by flooding. So fire almost becomes like a water event, and that it makes the land so vulnerable to flooding and erosion afterwards. So you can note things like that as well. And then roofing materials, whether it's asphalt, slate, clay tile, shake roof. Not many of those, we still have ours from over 40 years ago, not many of those left in existence. But yeah, so whatever roofing material you've got, when it was built, what the approximate replacement cycle is if you're looking to replace soon. Sometimes that comes into account if you're looking at putting in a big rainwater harvesting system, that you're going to wait till you've got, like, say, a metal roof or something cleaner than like your crumbling asphalt, if that's an issue. And then some more nice photos, whatever seems appropriate for you there. Typical SWOT analysis. So this might be strengths, like we get, a consistent small amount of rainfall throughout the year, or we get heavy rains that are concentrated in like a particular part of the year, so we can manage for rainwater capture. That could be a strength or an opportunity. Could also be a weakness if it's creating a vulnerability to flash floods and that sort of damage, high erosion potential. Threats could be, like in California, for instance, we're facing a lot of these atmospheric river events, which can have major impacts, like even on our transport systems, on our land, on our plantings, our housing, however that works out for you, for your site. Some final thoughts. That's pretty straightforward. I'm really appreciating how many of you are dropping questions into these question slides, because I can answer those on the video feedback. So if you haven't been doing that, this is a good place to do that as well. And then I try and get those questions sort of into a generalized format and make them available to other students, because there's often a lot of overlap in the questions that you ask. So if you're asking, probably someone else either has asked it or is wanting to ask it but thinks it's a dumb question. So go ahead and ask it. Okay, your watershed maps. This is going to be the section where a lot of people get hung up, we spend a lot of time giving feedback, which is fine. So this is the watershed practice sheet. Now there is a standardized answer sheet, or like an answer key, that we as instructors get. So the idea here is that this is a fictionalized site. Here's your design site. It's up to you to show us that you can read this topographic map and draw out the watershed basin. There's a couple of clues here because I do it automatically. I just kind of go around the watershed basin. But basically just show us that you know how to do this assignment. This is worth 1 point on the rubric, on the marking sheet. So all it is that you've included this slide, you've worked out where that boundary is on this map. You've colored in the watershed basin. You can copy and paste this triangle to note the high points, and you're done. So it should be pretty straightforward. If you miss it, if you screw it up somehow, it's worth a point. I don't think I've ever marked less than half a point on this for someone that like really mangled it, and I left lots of feedback so they could get it right next time. And the nice thing about doing the video feedback is that I can actually trace out if you've made any errors. So not a big deal, but just the point of this is that do this practice sheet and include it in your assignment, because it is graded, and it's basically just to show us that you know how to read a topographic map, highlight a watershed basin, highlight the high points, or note the high points of the shape of the landscape, and show us the water flow and like how water is going to travel across that landscape, because that's a really important skill when you're doing land design, especially when we have these kind of very volatile land locations, or geographies, like in California, where we're getting a lot of rain in a very short period of time and then almost no rain throughout the rest of the year. We've got like expansive clays that tend to disperse and break down when they get saturated. So things like this and understanding water flow and landscape is really important. Okay, enough about that. So now we're going to come to your macro and your watershed catchment. Now, either of these you could expand into, say, like 1 or 2 slides, like if you want to do kind of a meso watershed, like somewhere in between. But one of the important points to note is that both of these, so the macro watershed catchment and your micro watershed catchment, should both be topographic maps. So the reason I'm gonna make that point is because a lot of times when if you've got a suburban site or an urban site, I see students highlighting, it's more like the street shed. So it's like where water flows around that suburban site. And what you actually want to be doing is think of the micro watershed as like a creek shed or a stream shed. And it's almost like sometimes you have to kind of try and remove the development from the landscape and see like, what would this have looked like if I was just focusing on the most local creek, like the part of the landscape of which my site is a part, that's immediately surrounding it, but isn't like the big watershed. So there's not going to be necessarily, very few sites there's going to be like a county level watershed or like stream protection for like this little unnamed creek or like the small creek that your property, that area was influenced by. There's going to be like, say, a Santa Ana River watershed map and information, but not for like the really, what we call the micro watershed. So that's that localized site. When you get into the stream, kind of the stream shed, like how storm flow works around your property, storm drains, like how it comes from surrounding properties, that's going to go into your site water flow. And so this is another one where you can duplicate it. You can do kind of like, this is my site, like in the middle, and then this is like the neighborhood. So I know like where water is going to flow around that neighborhood. So like, say if somebody up here drains their pool, that water flow is like, say, going past my property, like it's sort of, it's got the potential to influence it. But it's not an actual like geographic watershed. Do we have any questions about that? Because maybe it's not immediately intuitive, I think, from some of the training materials, but it's something that comes up quite a bit. Do you have any questions on that, or is it clear? Clear? Okay. Yay, I did it. Okay, so then there's a couple of things within these maps. So you're going to draw out your watershed boundary. Now, sometimes, especially for the macro watershed, a lot of students can pull up a county map and it's got the watershed boundary already delineated. If that basin isn't highlighted within that, you're going to have to do that yourself. So in some sort of a graphics program, use like a transparent color, so maybe like a 20% opacity, so like you can see all the features underneath it. But just make sure that watershed is filled in. So I just want to double check. I think that whole thing is worth, yeah, so the watershed basin enclosed by the boundary is worth 2 points, and then basically filling in that basin is another 2 points. So it's literally like filling in the polygon. So don't skip that. Don't lose those points. It's just to make sure that you really understand that here's the boundary. All of this area within that boundary is going to be the area that collects water and is directing it to, a certain point in the landscape. And then you're going to designate your design site on there, show the path of the water flow, and you're done. So you want to do that for both your macro and your watershed catchment. Let's see what I'll show you the examples here. No, so this is the large watershed. Now that's a pretty big area, right? That's crossing 2 different states. So that's the kind of scale that you're looking at for your macro watershed. Here's another example from the Great Lakes region. You can see like they've really detailed, like this is how big that watershed is. That's huge. And then some of the water flow dynamics in it, and you can get that creative if you want to. Now here, I don't like to use this example because this is pretty much exactly what I just said is on the site water flow, and we've kind of discussed this. But this example is a better example. Like this is, oh, come on. Okay, so here's the main watershed. Here's the micro watershed within this. This is a really nice illustration of that. So this is what would be the macro watershed. This is the micro watershed within that. And you can see even they've expanded it out here, like here's the macro watershed, like the landscape level, you know, Mississippi River Basin sort of macro watershed. There's a sub river, like a named creek within that, and then this is where the actual site design is. Okay. And if yeah, if this site, from the discussions that I've had with other instructors, I would really like to see this example in the site water flow instead. Now you can see a topographic map in here, so it's helpful. So this is kind of one of those iffy like judgment calls, like the design site's right here. You know, they're below this ridge. This is the site water flow off of that ridge, but you can see how they've related it to the geography of the site. Whereas if this was zoomed in and they were just going around like, you know, this property, you wouldn't have that same understanding of how the geography around the property site is impacting it. So I hope that clarifies. A lot of these are judgment calls. You're not going to get it wrong and like lose all your points in the assignment because you made a judgment call. Just, you know, just tell me the story of the property and the way the water is flowing as you know it, as you understand it, in a way that makes sense for you. And like these are my guidelines that I think should help clarify the confusion I see between micro watershed and the site water flow. Okay. Helpful, I hope. I can only, oh, are you raising your hand, Luis? Okay, you'll have to unmute yourself. I can see you're talking again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So in that earlier assignment where we did the water site flow analysis for the site, it looks very similar to what you just showed just now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, maybe I might have went like overkill on that assignment.
Okay, let me look. Can I bring your assignment up on the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Let's do it.
I love the kids shows in the background. It's like, wow!
Yeah,
Okay.
it's my life.
Yeah,
I love it though. It's fun.
that's a good life. Okay, I'm not seeing anything in here. Okay, what am I missing?
Okay.
Oh, no, here it is. It's coming up. It's just slow.
Yeah.
Oh, your water survey. Oh, no, okay. What are you needing me to look at?
So you know, I did like this whole micro macro thing where so water's entering the property, you know, from the freeways, the mountains, kind of show you know, past maps of like what has changed before I bought the property and how they like induced water to the site.
Okay.
And so on that very last one where it kind of like shows the house, and it's just like it just looks like the watershed of the house. It doesn't look like on that last slide we were showing on the current side that's coming up due.
So the slide that I was showing on the example, you mean this slide?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know. It seemed like we might have already done that in the class.
Where has it been done?
Okay, let me pull it up. Where's the office?
Oh, yes. Let me see the base map. No, it's not on the base map. You do designate like water flows, surface flows on your base map. Is that what you're referring to?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so in that case, I mean, you can often bring that forward into your site water flow. So,
Okay.
yes, you're right. In a lot of cases, that is kind of a repetition of what you were doing for your base map. Like, I think this is actually, yeah, I mean, this is a replication of their base map. So what you're
And
looking at is like where the water flows is flowing over the whole site.
okay.
So if you've had water diverted onto your property, then you're going to want to make sure at either in the micro or in the site water flow that you've captured where that water is coming from and like where in the landscape that water is coming from, not just like it's coming from my neighbor's property. How is it getting onto your neighbor's property?
How's it getting on? Okay.
Mhm.
And if do you have mines pulled up still? Do you still have
I do.
mines?
Yep.
Could you look at slide 55?
Yes.
And so for this assignment, that this would be like a macro, I guess a micro, right? Because I'm zoomed in, or would I be so you want to see like these contour lines, and then you just want me to put arrows of like where the water is entering the property?
Yeah, if you can pull, I think it would probably help to remove the air. Can you remove the aerial image?
I can remove
There's
uh,
yeah,
a lot
it's
of
really busy. Like there's a lot going
yeah.
on here. So um
Okay, and
like
then
I can't see the contours enough to tell, like to delineate where the watershed for
where
the site is.
okay, all right. So we're just gonna just put it in more detail of the
Yeah.
watershed and remove the excess. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason I make these points, and like I said, it's a judgment call, but the reason I make the point is because I see a lot of students go like from macro watershed down to like their like that street shed, the neighborhood shed water flow, and then they almost have nothing to put into their site flow. So they're kind of asked like it's kind of going back to like what you did with the base map where you're showing the water flow off of the roof, but it's more than that. So it's like the micro watershed needs to sit somewhere in the middle between that macro watershed and like just the immediate site flow around your prop, like on your property, like the like roofs and things like that.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah. I have an idea what I'm supposed to show. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just looking in the chat. Awesome, Catherine. I was like, wait a minute, I think you're further ahead than you think. So I'm glad you're saying
I am.
finishing assignment 3. That's awesome.
Not as pathetic as I
Yes,
thought.
it's good enough. It'll hold, Lucia. I feel your pain. Yeah. Yeah. Or thankers are something that you often put in after the fact or after the first time. So I can sympathize there. Okay. Are we good for
Quick question, Susan. So I have a really great photo of my macro watershed, but it's 3-dimensional, but it's not topographic. Do I need to overlay that then?
If you can overlay, yeah, if you can get the topographic map over it, that's helpful.
Okay, I'll try.
Because sometimes is the 3D like directly overhead?
Yeah, it's overhead. The photo was not generated by me, but there was a study on this particular basin, this watershed, and they have a great map, and you can see all the different elevations, if you will, but it's not topographic.
Does it have like a slope analysis, like where it's showing like color based on the elevation?
Let me look at it actually.
Is it in your assignment yet?
I feel like I put it in an earlier, well, can I share my screen really quickly and I can show it?
You should be able to. Let me make sure. I'm going to stop my share. I want to make sure that you're enabled. Oh, okay.
Okay, just really quickly.
Okay, you should be able to do it now.
Okay. So this is the watershed here. So
Oh,
I
I
just,
see. Yeah, this would be fine for the macro. It is nice to have the topographic version, but honestly, at this point, like if the resolution on a topographic map at the macro level is really coarse grained, I think, for lack of opposite of fine grained. So like the resolution is not really high. So that would be okay. I mean, it does show the basin. Yeah, ideally we're looking for a topographic map. Not all, that's just not always available for, you know, for everyone's watershed, and we get that.
I'm going to go ahead and look for one. I just wanted to make sure that if I can't find something to overlay, that would work.
Okay, you could also do both. Like you can add an extra slide if you want to, and add both. That is a really nice map. The reading of the topographic map is a really important skill set to make sure you can do that. Like, and it's easy to overlook. Like when we're looking at maps that have like a 3D imagery, and they've got a topographic map overlaid, you're like, oh, this looks cool. But then when you see like a completely just black and white topographic map on, like, say, a drafting sheet of paper, you know, it's like 2 by 3 feet or however, you know, it can be very easy to get disoriented and be like, okay, is this a creek going up or a valley going up, or is it a ridge coming down? And sometimes like it does that kind of like 3D imagery flip thing where it's like you look at it one way and it looks like it's going up, and look at it another way, it looks like it's going down. So just make sure that you're comfortable reading like just a topographic map straight up through. And this assignment is a good way to do that, and that's why we try to get students to bring in topographic maps where they can, to make sure that like, okay, you can really read this in order to like advance that skill set, because it's a really important piece of like landscape analysis.
For sure. No, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I have a question about the when I was doing the workshop with Javan about the site map. So he was actually getting to my area through the Google Earth Pro, and then he was like, "Oh, look at that watershed!" And he like put the blue water in there, and I could see like how it's flowing around the area and through my property and everywhere else. And so he was pointing that out, but I can find out how he did it. So since then, I was just.
So he was on Zoom.
Yes.
Yeah. So Javan's like a wizard with the Zoom annotation tools. I know I've been on calls with him too, like where we're just like, you know, we're working on a design together. We're like, you know, just checking in, be like, hey, can you like give me some ideas about this or something? And yeah, he just whips it out. He's also got a tablet with a pen. So he's just like, oh, like, oh, there's your watershed. Yeah. That doesn't replicate easily into like with the, for instance, like with Google Slides, like that kind of graphics capability. Like the annotation tools on Zoom are really strong, but they don't translate well necessarily to, you know, to like your actual design portion. One thing you can do is like, if you go, can you see the watershed? You just can't figure out how to get the graphics? Or a little quote.
Like on a computer or on the ground, because I can see where the water is running through my property, and I've been here. You know, we came in the summer when the rain was supposed to come, so I was actually seeing which way the water is running and what is it doing, and I started doing swells. I've been working on this like for past 2 years.
Okay.
So I already know where the water comes from and whatnot. Then just now I need to actually put it on the map, and so I was just wondering if that Google Earth actually will help us in this somehow.
Okay.
Maybe.
I'm trying to reduce some system resources here because it's telling me that it's affecting my audio quality. So I'm going to close some tabs. Usually that helps. Okay. So when you pull up Google Earth with your property, can you see the watershed basin? Like, can you identify the watershed basin that he was talking about? First off.
Yeah, because I know the area, so yes, I can, because there are no houses anywhere, so I practically see when I look around, I kind of see where the water.
Do you have a
runs when
topographic map for your site or for the area around your site?
I have just a topographic map for all my site, but there was no topographic map anywhere in like county doesn't have it or whatnot, because we are building a house, so we have one made for our site. So I have guys here to survey the whole area, and but when I was trying to get some topo map from somebody, they said the whole neighborhood is not surveyed, so there's nothing else. But I have all my 5 acres. Yeah, that's what they say. So I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So if you can identify that in Google Earth Pro, you can just use the polygon tool, and it may be like a lot of points. You can use either the pen tool to draw, and it'll be like a gazillion points, or you can use the polygon and just like, kind of dot them out as they go.
Okay.
So that's one option. The other option is to like, pull an image, take a direct overhead image from Google Earth, like where you can save the image, and then draw it out in like even like a Mac Paint program or something, like a really simple graphics editor, and you can draw that line around it and then color the basin in within that.
Yeah.
I would recommend using Google Earth and using the polygon tool, because then you've got a solid polygon that you can just fill. You can choose like just the outline and then just the fill, because that satisfies like the identify your watershed boundary and then identify the watershed basin with a minimum amount of fiddling around with graphics. So even if your boundary is a bit like rough or jagged, that's okay. That's totally fine. But that would be the easiest from a graphic standpoint to make that clear.
And I checked the watershed for 29 palms, and of course we are not in the town boundaries.
No.
So we're unincorporated, little like off the town. So again, we are not on their watershed map anymore. So, but I'll keep checking. I think I might find something else, or I'll just use the Google Earth or.
Okay. You are in a watershed. We're all in a watershed somewhere. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we are. I know.
I don't really want to get into. I can't. Do you want some help? Do you want to workshop this a little bit right now, or do you want to keep looking and then reach out when you're?
I think I'm gonna keep looking, and I need to catch up too, because I just find out I have a few more months or weeks before it gets really warm. So I needed to whatever I needed to plan this spring, I had to plan. So before I sit down with the computer, plus we finally got our internet working this past few days, because I couldn't do anything online. It was just so painful. Waiting 10 minutes to open one page. I was like, okay, forget it. So finally, this is hopefully gonna work from now on. So, and multiple plants are in the ground for the heat to come soon. So yeah, I think we're fine.
Okay.
Finally, I'm gonna start working on my.
Okay. I'm just gonna bring up. I just want to share. Just so I kind of got. So you guys can see what's going on too. Oh, do you mind if I share your property, like your address and stuff on the call, Lucia?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay. I want to make sure. Okay, so this is where you are, and you're right between like Joshua Tree, Mojave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whatever, there's probably going to be, there's Salton Sea. So even like whatever grand watershed like is part of the Salton Sea, I'm not sure, but there's going to be something probably along this ridge. I'm going to say up here, I bet, kind of creates a basin, unless all of this is one big basin. I'm not entirely sure.
We're practically surrounded with the mountains. That's what you were showing there, kind of like hilly areas. Then there's a Big Bear on the west side. Then there's the Joshua Tree right below us. So we're like kind of like in the bowl. So
Yeah.
whatever comes, yeah, it's kind of it's hardly ever rain here. So when you guys were getting all that heavy rain in LA areas, we were
Yeah.
just watching how it's raining around the surrounding mountains, and we got like barely a few drops here. So
yeah, does that pretty much move north of you?
Yes, it's yes, mostly it was going like a west, and then going right above us like north, turning towards Las Vegas.
Through this channel, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly, I can see that.
And just last week when it was when it started, the air was I mean the wind was blowing the other way for some reason, and then we got some of the rain that passed LA towards like a Barstow, and then coming back down on us from the north. So we got some rain from there, but yeah,
Right.
not much.
No, and you're
Even the
pretty flat where
hurricane.
you are too, right?
Yeah, we are pretty flat on a. It's like a slight slope, but not too hilly. It's yeah, it's pretty flat.
Okay.
But we are still 2,800 feet high up.
Oh, wow, okay.
So yeah,
Okay,
it's a little cooler here, but it doesn't rain. So
yeah.
in the summer I get a few little flash floods, so it ruined my swells last summer.
Oh, interesting, okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I see you got some water there on the map, so I'm gonna research. I didn't
Yeah.
look into it too much, but yeah.
Yeah, you'll be able to find something. Yeah, there's not really much topography.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, and sometimes, well, I mean, I can see that the development actually went around this, down here.
Mhm.
So either that's a creek, I mean, it may just be like a big erosion gully. Sometimes that happens too. Yeah,
Excuse me.
Those are
okay.
Lucia,
the gullies where yes, sorry.
Okay.
Lucia and Catherine, explain to me why the swales would not hold if she's on relatively flat land and there's a very minimal rain event.
Well, because I dig everything by hand, and I was kind of, the how do you call it, the trial and error. So probably it wasn't either deep enough, wide enough, or there was more water than I expected. Every time it rains, the water comes from a slightly different area. And this fall, actually, I have somebody do the tractor work for the house that we are building. And I was trying to persuade the tractor guy to do like go on the contour more likely, and he was like, I'm not gonna build a dam, this is not gonna work. And I'm like, can you please just do it the way I want it? And I just turned around, I walk back, and he went down, and he slid the earth down the hill straight. So I think that actually shed more water
Yeah.
where I didn't want the water, and spit it up instead of slowing it down. And he told screw me where I already have the earthwork done that I dig by hand. So now I'm actually all the little ditch that he did, it's now. So he did nothing. So now I'm going there by hand, and I'm bringing rocks, and I'm building little dams, and making like using what he already done to my advantage, do on the little there. And yeah, gonna ruin all the guys who work on our land. They have an consideration for the law.
Oh, I think we lost her. Yeah, that's off contour is almost guaranteed to blow out in a significant rainfall event. And in a desert.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'd be willing to
I'm
guess.
back. I got disconnected.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
So
yeah.
Yeah, I'm back. So I'm trying now to work, kind of fix whatever he broke there, and I think we're gonna be good. So far, we didn't have any significant rain since then, so so I didn't have chance to see it how the water flows now, but I think it will come in summer. So I will let you know.
Okay. I'm gonna drop a little resource in the chat here and this is just for California. My apologies. Also using the wrong keyboard, so I didn't copy. But if you need watershed maps and GIS data for California, so this is the CDC. This might be helpful to you. I think. Yeah, this will give you like all your like geologic maps, seismic hazards, faults, stuff like that. So that might be helpful to those of you in California. One of the things too that we have, especially across the coastal California, but it does extend into the inland, is these expansive clays that when they get saturated, they basically lose all their structural integrity. So they're called expansive clays or dispersive clays. So essentially they get saturated and then they don't hold together anymore. And I see that happening. And when you look at the maps of where these clays occur, they're really like really reticulated all over the coast. So it's almost like a guarantee that it's almost like if you've got a property in like coastal or slight like inland California, it's very likely to at least contain part of that clay, in which case like building swales, especially of any significant size, you want to do really carefully, very like safe to fail, because the likelihood or chance of them failing is actually quite high.
So it's actually better for me to do the small ones rather than do the big swell with big that might break and it really will do a damage. So
exactly.
I know these little, I do like these little half moons kind of things. And you know what, it's really pretty because everywhere I dug in the ground, it just came, it's all green, something grew in there by itself. So it's actually really wonderful. So and it it break, and I said something else got flooded, but it didn't do much of a damage to anything. It just one part eroded more. That's where we are camping now, our property, while we're building the house. So where I have this nice flat part that I I don't know how I know they were flooding in the past, but I built those little swells above it. So I was hoping this will stay nice and compact for now on. So once my two of the swells broke and it got flooded, and it just happens because the rain came at night when it was raining in a summer during the day. So I was actually running around with a shovel. And I was fixing whatever broke. So I was like, okay, let's add little hole here. Let's fix this. That was fun. But if it comes at night, like there's really hard to run around with a flashlight and do the same thing. Plus, it's usually cold when it's raining in the evening, if it's not in the summer. So, but it's fun. Okay. Yeah, I need to do lots of work there, so sorry.
No, I mean that's how many acres have you got here? I'm trying to find
5 acres.
5 acres, okay. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or thoughts either on this assignment or wherever you're at? Because I know you're not all there, all in the same spot.
I'm just hoping after we come back after break, I
Yeah.
will be covered, hopefully.
Oh, actually, let me finish. I was doing a little overview of the course, and I got sidetracked of the assignment. I got sidetracked. Oh my God. Okay, so we got up to site water flow. Jeez. I think this is all pretty straightforward. Just follow follow the instructions, follow the calculations. One place that I do see students get hung up is in switching around with units. So just really make sure you're reading through and you've got the correct units. Like if you're using square feet here, then you're using inches, or you're using feet for rainfall. And if that, most of us are getting rainfall in inches, so then you're calculating it into like either proportion of feet or a certain number, like say 1.2 feet if you've got 24. Don't. So 1.5 if you've got say 18 inches. 2 feet if you've got 24 inches. Was my point. There is a conversion factor here if you're using imperial, so 7.48 is a conversion from square feet to gallons. If you're using metric, which a small number of my students do because you're in Europe or Canada, then you're just your meters by your millimeters gives you the total liters. So those are just volumetric calculations. So this is your by your site length. And then so one is the yearly average rainfall. The other is if you can find data for a 100-year 24-hour rainfall event. Most places should have some sort of data. If it's available, it's optional if you don't, or if you want to like make a guesstimate of like, we had a severe rainfall event. They didn't say if it was 100 or 200 or 50 year, but you could use the most severe rainfall event you've ever gotten if you want to calculate that. And I think that's helpful because especially going forward, we're going to see more and more of these big rainfall events. Okay. Hopefully straightforward. This is a similar thing if you've got different roof areas. If you don't have multiple roofs, just delete the rows you're not using. Again, there's a metric and an imperial, so use whichever applies to you. So your yearly average rainfall calculation is going to go here for your yearly runoff volume. And then your maximum 24-hour rainfall, which again, if you don't have that maximum 24-hour you should be your maximum 24-hour. You should be. I was thinking the 100-year. Your maximum 24-hour rainfall would go in this one. So these are two different totals, and then you've got your total roof area. Impermeable surfaces are going to be like your patios. Any like really hard packed surfaces, stuff like that. Mostly it's patios and driveways. Okay, your site water flow. This is a completely optional extra credit assignment. It's worth up to 3 points. Generally, if you do it and your calculations are correct, you've got all 3 points. So this is like if your design site is here and you're kind of in the middle of a drainage, all the water that flows onto that site. This especially applies to people with larger properties. So, say 2 to 5 or 100 acres. So it's essentially an analysis of like what would be your micro watershed, but all of the different ways that water comes onto your site. And this is where you can analyze that. And sometimes it's really surprising to see how much water is actually crossing over a landscape, either in like a yearly average or in like a major event. But again, it's totally optional. May not apply to everyone, but if it applies to you, I think it's worth working through. And then another SWOT analysis. So again, a lot of times I see students here that are like, my big takeaway was I had no idea how much water we could actually collect, which is great. That's a great opportunity. That's a real strength. You might find you've uncovered some weaknesses, like, maybe you don't have any gutters on your house, and so all of that water is just going to waste. You might have threats like the flash flood potential for a 100-year event is really high and increasing, something like that. So straightforward SWOT analysis, and then you're done and you're on your break, hopefully. So okay, go ahead.
Yeah, for the roof calculation, can I use my future roof that will be?
Yes, yeah, there's actually, if there's currently no roof area on your site, propose a small structure. So that could be often, I recommend for people that have absolutely no structures on their site, start, if you've got the resources, start by building a pole shed with a sizable roof area. One of my mentors actually did that with he bought a 10-acre property in Vermont, and he kind of ran everything out of there. And then at some point they parked an RV under it, and then they started to build around the RV. Then they pulled the RV out, and now it's their house. It's a beautiful little house. But just starting with a basic roof structure that you can collect some rainwater off is going to get you some wins. It's going to get you a tank full of water that you can work with, you know, if not the whole year, then at least into, say, like May or June, maybe, depending how much water you can collect there. And it doesn't take much, like 1,000 square feet. We've got 1,000 square foot roof here that we collect off of. And we're filling a 4,200 gallon tank plus more. We've filled IBC. We've got 2 full IBC totes, so that's an extra 600 gallons of water. We dump, you know, I think we infiltrate between 20 and 30,000 gallons just onto our yard, and we're on a 1/4 acre. And it's like this, like it's super steep, it's all terraced. And then we've actually had, this year we had to set up mechanisms so that we could just let water flow through. We could open up our dams, the pumps would turn off, and we would just let water go by, because we're like, we are totally at capacity. If we could put another 3 tanks in, we probably would, or at least another 1 or 2. So it can be really surprising to see how much water can actually go through your site. And just having a really simple roof structure, like, you know, 300 or 400 square feet off of, you know, a sizable, like a shed roof or a carport roof structure, can really get you started. And it can get you started with like getting some young trees in, getting those established, like right around the parking area if you don't have anything else. So that's worth thinking about. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Pat, I saw your eyebrows go up, so.
Could you just go, I would be that person. I remember reading where they said I was shocked how much water. I've been shocked how much water. My neighbors now are starting to move in the right direction and getting barrels, and then, like you said, get totes. And I will. But what size did you say you've been collecting on 1,000 square?
We have a 4,200 gallon tank, or yeah, 4,200 gallon tank,
which
so
is
up to
buried,
5,000 gallons. Sorry.
So does that mean it's buried?
Pardon me?
You buried that tank?
No, it's above ground. So it's about
okay.
8 feet wide by 10 feet tall. So up to 5,000 gallons, you don't need a permit.
Oh, interesting.
No, that's Ventura County, but I'm pretty sure it's statewide. And I mean, we rolled that thing off of a trailer in the street and like hand carried it to the backyard and put it on a gravel pad that we, you know, hand leveled and compacted and stuff. It was the hardest part, but for sure was connecting the, you know, all the pipes and everything. So
remarkable. Okay.
Yeah, and it seems to be, on average, it's about now it's gone up, so it's about 75 cents to $1 per gallon of storage. So when we bought that tank, it was a little, I think it was $2,200 for the tank, and then plus the shipping, plus the freight. And we did all of our own rainwater catchment and connection and everything. Now when I look up tanks, that's gone up, but I've only been like, I've been really lazy. I've just been looking at like Tractor Supply, and those seem to be running somewhere between maybe 50 cents for the bigger tanks, but really like 75 cents to $1 per gallon seems to be the average. You might be able to get cheaper tanks from somewhere else. You can also look into like ferro cement, like building a custom tank or other options, but yeah.
It is remarkable. I mean, it is remarkable how much water stored, and how often, I mean, depends on the year, but you must fill it, and then at the beginning of the season, rain season, you start emptying it.
Yeah, so a couple of strategies. I mean, we use it especially for germinating things, or like if we're doing a cover crop, because there's a significantly higher survival rate if we water things with the tank water compared to if we water them with municipal water, because of like the chloramines, all the like minerals and stuff in the city water just kills little plants, and it makes it really hard for seeds to germinate. So We prioritize that water for getting new things started. And then we try to pull it, like, we try to stretch it out until July and August, but the last few years, we've actually had a rain event in July.
Mhm.
So then what we'll do, if we know rain's in the forecast, we'll basically just start dumping the rainwater from the tank. And it's a gamble that we've lost on a couple of occasions. Like, we start dumping rain out of the tank onto the landscape. So we've got, like, a few days before the rain, so we've got roots going
Yes.
down, plants going up. So they've got more capacity to accept rainfall, and we've got more capacity in the tank to store fresh water. So don't always
I'm-
win it, but
I am really thankful that you mentioned, I've never heard use rainwater and germination rate, and it makes 100%. It makes, of course, sense, but
yeah.
the great use. I mean, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Happy to help. So, okay. Any others? We're at 11:30, so just want to make sure. Oh, there we go. Nope, all good.
All good.
Okay. Well, reach out with any questions. Oh, I did get an email from someone who had emailed me a week ago, and then they posted in one of the discussions asking if I'd gotten their message, and I hadn't, because there was no mention anywhere of like OSU or the PDC. OSU seems to be is the really important part, because that's what my filter is set to. So I try to filter out for specific emails. But if you want to send me an email through my personal email, which is great, I totally encourage it. If you've got questions, make sure to put something about the OSU, ideally the OSU PDC Pro, so that my email, so my Gmail flags it and gets it into the right folder, because otherwise things just get lost. I've got way too many emails. So that's the only thing that I wanted to note. It's a final. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for showing up, you guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you after the break.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.